again, everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I'm going to be going over some drawing tutorials. Today, we are working on the eye and working on some specifics of how it works and beginning to work on our facial features and getting some of those details lined out. So, to begin with, I think it's important to understand the anatomy of things before you just start drawing, because it's easy to get an idea of what you think it should look like and not really understand or grasp the physical concept of it first. So we're going to start there. I've drawn like a little chart over here on this side of what an eyeball looks like if you had, not an x-ray because x-rays don't see tissues and things like that, but if you had the ability to see past the skin and what an eyeball looks like behind the lids, this is what it is. It's literally a ball. Go figure. So here in the first little step-by-step process, it's literally just a circle and then a smaller circle on top of it. And we're looking at it if somebody was face on to you, similar as when I went through the face proportions. If it's straight on and they're looking straight ahead, then it's like very symmetrical. It's literally like an X, perfectly in the middle. And then when you draw the lids in this one, it actually, the corner of the lids, let me get a different color. There we go. So the corner of the lids go on the corners of the circle, and then go just around the actual iris here. And then from there you can start adding more details here, and like the eyelid is actually a little bit it's got a rim around it, and then you can start adding the details around the outside. So that's like basic understanding of how an eyeball works. But another important thing to note is that this is from front on, somebody staring straight ahead, and that almost never happens. It does sometimes. It's a little bit undynamic, so it's not the most it's not the best way to draw something if you're trying to get a certain feeling across. So if you were to take this circle here, just draw a circle, and then say we want to have them looking to the side. The thing is, if you draw a perfect circle like this again and put it over there, that is not how an eyeball works, because we have these lines that are straight up and down here are actually curving lines. So if you have a ball like this and somebody is looking and you want the X to meet up here, these lines are actually going to be curved and following the eye. Since we're still fairly much in the middle on this line, that's not going to have very much curve, but this line here is all the way over on this end, so it's going to follow around the edge of the circle like this. And if you imagined it going behind, it would be like this. And to give a sense for where the direction is going, and that this is a sphere, not a flat circle. To give just a little bit more definition to that, let me just draw another one down here. So when you do that, then your pupil that sits over here, instead of being another perfect circle, is actually going to be a little bit elongated, because it isn't sitting right in the center looking right at you. The other thing about the eye, which comes into play mostly with more technical drawings that are very realistic, is the eye itself actually has a little bit of a bulge, I guess you could say. Right where this comes out, it actually rises up some. So your iris and pupil are not flat against your eye, they actually are a little bit extended. So if you were to look at it straight from the side, so say we're doing this, here we and you're looking this way, the iris and pupil are actually going to stick out of the eye. Maybe not quite that much, about that much. And so the eye itself actually follows this out and then back in, like that. And you may have seen drawings like this before, but this is just to give you kind of a basic understanding. And the same thing with the pupil. If you draw if you draw a perfect circle, it will make it look flat and like it's supposed to be turning towards you, when in fact it's looking in that direction. So that's a basic understanding. Then from there is basically choosing where you want the lids to go. Everybody has different shaped eyelids, so it's very much dependent on the character that you're drawing or the person that you're drawing. But just for an example, let's look over here. And to give you an idea, always use reference pictures because that helps a whole ton. So over here on my little selfie, if we were to draw the actual eyeball itself, it's all the way up here and down here. So that gives you a sense of like how big the actual eyeball inside of the head is. And then from there, let's do a different color so we can see it. There we go. So you see where this lines up here, and the corners of the lids line up right there. And then you can draw where they connect. And since I'm smiling in this picture, they're a little bit thinner. Most people, if they have like an open eye, are going to have a little bit more open, depending on the eye shape. They could have it. They could have thinner eyes like this, and some people have really big, wide eyes like this, so that when the pupil sits, it will look different depending on their eye shape. And then from there, let's do orange. The actual iris and pupil are sitting inside here. And you can see, if I were to draw our lines here, there would be one going down here and then one going like this. So you can see how they're kind of gently curving in the direction that the eye is facing. And so similarly, on a actual like sketch drawing, I have Ditto, my character over here, who's a cute little bard. She has the same thing going on. So her eyeball is actually up here and then probably comes down to here. See, this is where it gets a little bit trickier, because since I have been drawing eyes for a long time, I have a little bit more stylized version, and it's easy to leave out some lines and still make it look like an eye. See, it's obviously not as detailed as like an actual eye, where you can see exactly where all of the edges of the eyeball are. And it's a little bit harder to guess exactly where this should line up, because it is more stylized. But that's basically where they should be. And then from there, we have where our eyelids line up on either end, and then go around right here on either side, and then they meet up. And we have our iris and pupil on each one. So that's basic overview of the anatomy. I know it looks super funny. It looks like she's wearing glasses now. Looks weird, but from there you can start to practice and do some more like different versions of the same thing. So let's get out another layer here. So if you want to just draw and practice eyes, a good way to start is by You can start with the circle if that's helpful to you. Just have a circle and then choose which direction you want the eye to be looking. So let's say we want it to be kind of like looking up this direction. So what I usually do is I don't draw the pupil immediately. Usually I draw the lid first so that I can get a sense for like what kind of eye shape I want, and then I can put the pupil where it best suits the mood, because the way people look, there's very small and minuscule changes that you can make to make a very different feeling. And it's easy to, if you just like, okay, here's where I want the eye to be, and you're like, okay, well, if I do this and then do this, and it's like, okay, well, suddenly the mood isn't what you were going for, you know? So I like to start with doing the lid. So basic stuff, what I usually do is it goes up here, and then you can either have like a flatter spot and then have it come back down, or you can have it swoop immediately down. You can kind of just get a feel for it and the type of character that you want to do. And then the bottom lid is going to follow the roundness of the eye and then meet back up over here. Another thing to pay attention to is sometimes people like to draw, if you just start off with your eyelid, you can draw something that's super dramatic like this. And there's your top lid, which is great and awesome, but keep in mind that from here on, that's all lashes. So an easy thing to fall into is like, okay, here's where the corner is, and then I'm gonna draw the eye out here. And if you remember from your little anatomy lesson, if this is the circle of the eye, here, this is the top of the circle, that's the bottom of the circle, here's one end. If we're following this around like this should not go out this direction, because that's suddenly not an eyeball at all. It should be over here. So this is actually the edge of the eye. So that's something to keep in mind when you're drawing, is to make sure that you don't follow the lashes all the way out, and keep in mind that the lashes are going to extend past. So it'll be somewhere around there instead. So then, once you have your eye here, keep in mind that the lids are going to fit together, and if you want to have it super realistic, you can have add some of those eye details here and there, stuff like that. And then so see, and I think I even fell prey a little bit, because the lashes should fall, because my circle is a little bit long on that side. See, so the circle should come down somewhere around there, and this should come up here. So that's another thing. Always keep an eye on what you're drawing, and if something looks wrong, then just alter it a little bit and change it. So then if we want the eye to be looking up this way, we can then put in our iris and pupil here. And for me, it's hard to just like immediately draw exactly where I want it to be, because it is a circle and those aren't the easiest to draw. So you just kind of get a feel for it and kind of figure out where you want it to go. And then from there, your pupil. And the pupil is going to be like the iris is on the actual shape of the eyeball. So if we have our straight on view here, and then got the circle. Oop. So let me do a circle. See, I get lazy and I just use my cool program to do circles for me. If it's straight on like this, then the pupil is going to be also perfectly in the middle. So they all line up together, and make that X. So similarly, when you're following over here and making where that pupil should line up at, it should follow the edge of the pupil is going to follow the edge of your iris, and is going to be this space here is going to be fairly even all around the edges. And then from there, you can just start adding more details and more color and stuff like that. Some lashes. A thing to keep in mind about lashes is that sometimes people like to draw them like straight up like this, all the way around. And it's important to remember which direction the eye is facing and how they're going to flow together. Lashes are going to come off in the direction that side of the eye is facing. And then see in the front here, it's going to be pretty straight up, but then over here is going to face this direction, like that. And the same thing for the bottom lashes. So make sure that you follow the actual curve of the eye as it goes around. So that's some basics. From there, the important thing to remember is there's a whole bunch of different eye shapes. You can play around with the lids and how long they are. Sometimes people have really long lower lashes or super long upper lashes, and that will change the feeling of the different characters that you're doing. And depending on where the eye is looking too. So if you have a character who's super like young and innocent kind of character, then you're going to have eyes that are going to be a little bit bigger maybe to kind of signify that. And you can have them maybe looking up to the side, something like this. And you can also pay attention to sometimes if you're doing color, which is something I'm just going to very basically touch on because this isn't, color's not the point of this video, but that will also help your the feeling that you're getting from your eyes, because right now these look a little bit, I don't know, maybe unsure, but if you take a little bit of highlight and depending on where you put that, can then make it look, see now it looks a little bit sad, or you can have something that's like this, gives it a different feeling. It looks a little bit suspicious to me now. Or if you have the highlights almost directly in the middle, it's going to give it a very intense look. Stuff like that. So you can just play around and see what different highlights do for different things, and especially in the direction that your eyes are facing and what kind of feeling it gives. So that's basics on eyes, without going into like too much overdrawn detail. Let me know if you want me to cover different kinds of eyes and how they reflect on characters, because I can totally do that kind of a video if you're interested. I'm planning on going forward and doing more of the facial features first, so I will cover that. But I love to have your guys' feedback and know what it is you like me to draw. So don't be afraid to let me know, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video and give me some comments, and I will see you guys around next time.